Okay, so we're back in the code editor and I'm in lecture 59 folder, which is located in fullstack-course 5 examples folder. And here's our menu items.html. And that's the template HTML that's controlled by the menu items controller that we've defined and wired in inside of our routes. So if we go to the browser and actually on the page for a particular menu right here, which is menu short name A, if we find the call to the server, you can see menu underscore items.json with the category equals A. We can actually take a look at the preview of what it's responding with, and you can see that responding with an object that has two properties in it. One is category, and the other one is menu items. So the first thing we could do is right away go back to our menu items template, definitely remove this, we don't need that, but also update this heading part here where it talks about what menu name it is and the special instructions. That should be easy. Let's go ahead and make a couple of new lines and we'll just put it right here where we need to interpolate it. And the label that we gave our controller could be seen in public.routes.js. So let's scroll down and we see the label is menu items CTRL. Let's copy that. Let's place it right here. And if we look at our controller, the property that we're exposing through the controller that holds that data is menu items. So we'll go ahead and copy that and say menu items controller that menu items, that category, that's the one that came back from the call, the category property, that name, that's going to tell us whatever the name menu is. And very similarly, let's just copy this part right here real quick. We'll give the special instructions that will take this instead of name to be saying special underscore instructions. And let's go ahead and also maybe indent this a little bit more properly. Okay, this is pretty good. And let's go back to the browser and take a look. You can see here now we have this soup menu because that's the A short name is for soups. If we go back, actually, I noticed that we have this container and we're closing this container right here. So that means I place my menu item, at least the placeholder for the menu item, outside of the container, and I was wrong. Let's go ahead and put it inside of the container. If we save that now, it will still not work, but at least it will be formatted a little bit better. You can see now it's sitting where it's supposed to, as opposed to before it was somewhere in the footer somehow. Okay, so that's our title, and that's pretty good. And the next thing is we need to iterate over this whole menu item for all the menu items that are inside of our data that is being returned through the controller. Well, one way we could do it is put ng repeat right here, but that would make it pretty messy. Instead, let's go ahead and create a separate component that would even make this HTML much more semantic, as we're going to actually represent each menu item, single menu item, as a tag that's going to be backed by a component. So let's go to the public and create another folder, and we'll call it in the single menu item, one menu item. And we'll create a component called menu item.component.js. And again, we'll give ourselves a starting iffy here, and we'll say use strict. And we're defining this component on our public module, so we'll go ahead and we'll load the public module. And we'll define a component, and we'll call the component menu item. We'll close it and we'll specify the object to have a template URL of source menu-item in the singular menu-item.html. And we're definitely going to have to pass something into this template because obviously we're going to have some data that is going to come from the menu items template that we're going to need to pass into the actual single menu. So let's go ahead and create bindings, and the bindings will do menu item. And since the menu item is not something we're going to modify, we're going to go ahead and use one-way binding. Okay, so let's go ahead and save that, and let's go ahead and create menu-item.html template, and we'll do it straight in that same folder right there. And we'll go and take this HTML right here and we'll cut it out of here and we'll place it inside the menu item.html. Let's save that and let's save this. And since menu item.html is a template for our component, we don't need to give it any sort of controller as because it defaults to $CTRL. which means we could go ahead and start interpolating this menu item inside of our menu item.html. So I could go ahead and start real quick to do $controller.menu item, and it's going to have short name. We'll go ahead and copy this because we're going to have to repeat this over and over. The image I'm actually going to leave alone for now. We'll just go ahead and place something right here. For the alt, I'm probably going to want to put the name of the item itself, so the name of the menu item. If I actually go back and open up my Chrome Developer Tools, let's reload that real quick, and let's take a look if we could find real quick the items, the menu items right here. And the menu item, single menu item, is going to have, hopefully, just the name. Correct. So it's going to have just a name. So if we go back and basically copy this right here, copy this interpolation right here, and place it inside here, except instead of short name, we'll just give it a name. That will make more sense. Then we could put the item price. Then we could copy this right here again and place it into the item price. Except I don't think we want to leave it like this because this is a dollar amount and we have a standard filter in Angular called currency. So we'll go ahead and apply the currency filter. And the same goes for the portion name. Let's go ahead and place that in front of it. And the price underscore large. And again, that's a dollar amount, so we'll put the currency filter on it. And finally, portion name. And we'll need the name and the description. And now we could save that. Okay, so now it looks like we interpolated pretty much everything inside of the single menu item that we're going to have to display when we iterate over all the menu items that our controller is going to pass into this particular component. The only thing we didn't do is take care of the image right here. So first of all, we need to do ng-source, as we've discussed before. But what should we put in here? Should we go ahead and hard code the URL to our server? Previously, we used the images folder and it was just sitting here locally. But since we want to update those images, we now need to pull them from the server every time. Well, right now, there's really no other way for me to do anything other than hard code the entire URL. But I would like to change that. As you can remember, in the common, we had this common module.js with the API path. And this is really our base URL right there. So what I would like to do is I would like to inject this API path into the controller that is responsible for my component. So if I go to my menu item component.js, and I don't really have a controller here because Angular is giving one to me for free, but now I'm going to have one because I need to use the injection to inject that API path into it. So I'll say controller, and I will call it menu item in the singular controller. So obviously now I'm going to have to define it. So this is menu item singular controller, and we need to set up the minification protection here. And what we need to inject is our API path. So again, define the function called menu item controller, and API path is what we need to inject into it. And now we just do the standard ctrl equals this, and ctrl dot, it's called base path, is equal to our API path. Okay, so now we've exposed the base path as a property on our controller. And our controller is what controls this menu item template HTML, which means we can now substitute this something for actual $ctrl dot base path. And we need to put a slash after that, images, slash, and then one more thing, which is controller that menu item dot short name, because that's the name of our image. It goes by the short name, so it is a.jpg and so on, and we pull it out of the menu item property on our controller that we bound through the bindings of our component. So let's go back here, let's save that. And now just a couple of things left to do to make it all work. Number one is we need to declare our menu-item.component.js in our index.html. Let's not forget that. So let's go all the way to the bottom. And this is still in the public. So let's make a copy of the last statement and just change it. In this case, it's menu item single menu-item.component.js. We'll save that. And the last thing we need to do is we need to go to our menu items. That's where we need to insert our component. And our component is called menu-item.component. That's how we called it. And we need to now iterate for every item. We need to do an ng repeat. And that's going to be equal to a single menu item in our menu items controller, and expose menu items. And as you remember, we had two properties there. One is category and one is menu underscore items. So now we're able to pull out a single menu item out of there, but our menu item still expects something, right? If you go to the component definition, it's expecting a menu item as an attribute. So let's go ahead and give it this menu item as an attribute. So we'll say menu item equals to, and it's equal to this menu item that we pulled out from the ng repeat loop. Let's actually put it on the next line. It looks a little bit better. Okay, so let's save that. Let's go to our browser. Let's close this up. And we clearly messed something up. Let's take a look at the console. And it looks like it's saying that it cannot find a particular template. And the error, unfortunately, is not showing up properly. Let's go ahead and try to copy it manually and put it all there to see what the error is. And it just insists on just telling us that it cannot load this particular menu-item.html and says it's just not found. Let's go back to our code and look at our menu-item.component. Oh, and we could see that I forgot the word public in there because it's sitting in the public folder. So let's go ahead and save that now. Go back to our page, and now we don't seem to have CTRL, $CTRL defined inside of our menu item.component on line 17. So let's go to our menu item component. And what's going on here is I misspelled the name. It's CTRL. Okay, hopefully that's the last of the typos. And we go back, there's no arrows. And look at that, we have our whole menu for our soups right here. Eat away. And it has all the $signs where it need to be. If we go ahead and go from the front and go to the menu and go to the soups, go back, go to appetizers, they all seem to be there and all seem to be working just fine. Okay, that pretty much completes the re-implementation of our previous website in AngularJS. Obviously, we didn't go over any of the stylings or anything like that, but the entire website is totally done, and the only thing that's left for us is to code up the administrative portion to let the owners of the restaurant update this menu whenever they'd like. So hopefully now you're starting to see the power of AngularJS and how we can make things very modular and then put those components back together to work together to achieve kind of the entire website, where each part of it can be worked in isolation by itself, which is much easier way of approaching any software development project.